Are You Really Going to Eat That? Podcast episode 146. Hey there, I'm your host Wendy Hill and I'm a naturopathic nutritional therapist and expert in female hormone health. I specialise in helping women gain confidence and understand their bodies, allowing them to shine. I'm a huge foodie and this podcast allows me to bring you an eclectic mixture of guests where food and health is our uniting passion. Hey there, how are you this week? I hope you're all well. Thank you so much for joining me on the podcast. I always appreciate you listening. And, if you do have time and you want to go and leave me a comment, that's great. But just wanted to say a really big thank you. It means a lot to me. I do look at the numbers. I can see how many people, I don't know who is, but I can see how many people are listening and the numbers are going out week on week. And so I just wanted to give you guys a really big shout out. The guys who turn up week in, week out and listen to the podcast. Thank you so much. You make this all worthwhile for me. We've got an exciting few changes in a few weeks' time. So I'm going to announce that in a few weeks. So hold fire. Couple of changes, but nothing much. That was really exciting, wasn't it? I slapped that with a wet fish, didn't I? It is. We've got a few changes. So do bear with me. But this week, I wanted to, actually, it's a very serious subject this week. This week, I wanted to talk to you about eating healthy on a budget. Now, it doesn't, at the moment, it's a really scary time, I think, at the moment. We had the whole COVID thing, which, kind of lots of unrest. And then we kind of came out of that. And then, we've had, sort of issues with the economy. And then we've had the whole war in Ukraine. And it's a scary time. We're worried, prices are going up left, right, and centre. You literally cannot turn on the news without some talk about, wages not going up, cost of living going up. And it's starting, I think it's starting to frighten people. And it's certainly, worrying me. I've noticed when I fill up my car, that it is, it's considerably, I tend to fill up my car like a whole tank full. I hate filling it up. So I wait until like the very last minute and I fill it up with the tank. And I've really noticed how much more expensive it is. And I never really paid attention before, fuel prices went up a little bit, but it didn't make a huge difference. And it really has started to. And I've noticed it with food shopping as well. It has done. So tip number one, the most important budget-friendly tip is make a shopping list. It is so simple, but make a shopping list and stick to the shopping list. I am the queen of making a shopping list and then not sticking to it. So make a shopping list and then make sure you stick to it. So that requires a little bit of planning. It requires you to do a meal plan. And it also requires you to then create a shopping list, which is a little bit of time. However, I would say my sub tip is just do rinse and repeat. We tend to eat the same things over and over again. So do four. And every fourth week, you're buying the same ingredients, you're cooking the same meal. You probably won't need to buy the same ingredients if you check your cupboard before you go to the supermarket. Another sub tip. But you can just say, oh, well, we're going to have, these 5 ingredients, these 5 recipes this week. This is what we're going to cook. This is what we're going to eat. What do we need? What haven't we got in the cupboard? And that's what we put on the shopping list. And then if you have money left in your budget, you can buy your mini cheddars or whatever it is that you deem to be your treat, your frozen pizza, whatever it is for one of the nights. I would say my second tip kind of fits in with that, and it's make your freezer your friend. Your freezer is your best friend. So if you do find that you've overbought and you have foods left over or food that is about to go off in your cupboards, in your fridge or whatever, do not waste it. Your freezer is your best friend. So the first and foremost thing is to do something with it. Cook something with it or make something with it. So if you bought, chicken and it's about to go off, just roast the chicken and put it in the freezer till you know what to do with it. And if you've got some limp veggies that are in the bottom of your freezer, then cook them up, make soup, make veg fried rice, make something with them, shove it in the freezer. And not only have you got a meal for another day, but you have stopped yourself from throwing away that food. Tip number 3 is know what is seasonal and local. So if you can buy it fresh and seasonal and local and cheaper, then why wouldn't you? Of course you're going to. You're supporting the local economy as well. So, do that. But the key is you need to know what's seasonal. Think about things like wonky veg as well. So a lot of the supermarkets now are doing wonky veg. They're also doing kind of almost past its best veg. So, big boxes of fruit and veg that are kind of approaching the sell by date that they're selling off. But I love these wonky ones. I buy from a company called Oddbox. And again, they're either wonky or they're kind of extra fruits and vegetables that would have gone to waste. So they're not always local, but they tell you why. And you buy a big box of it and it's a bit of a surprise. And I like that. And that works for me. And I have it delivered every couple of weeks. And I've got a link in the show notes. So it's called Oddbox, but I've got a link in the show notes where if you use my link, you get a bit of a discount on the first time. I get a discount as well. So if you go to the show notes, it's hillstock.me.uk/146. And in there's a link to Oddbox if you don't know where they are, but you can Google them as well. Don't worry if you don't have to use my link, but there is a link where I think you get £10 off and I get £10 off or something. But they're great. And I have them every couple of weeks and it's kind of a bit of a surprise what you get from them. And this week I had like 6 avocados in there. Now, admittedly, they took a while to ripen, but I got 6 avocados in my Oddbox. Tip number 4 is all about protein. And you need to get protein savvy, guys. The second most expensive part of the shopping bill for you is probably going to be protein, or it might even be the most expensive part of the shopping bill. It depends how you eat. I am probably fairly protein savvy already. And so it's not a huge part of my, it's not the biggest part of my bill, but it definitely used to be. Firstly, you need less. So whereas I used to buy pre-packs of chicken from the supermarket, and I would use 3 chicken breasts in a dish for me and my husband, I now buy free range organic from the butchers and I use 1 chicken breast. Now they are more expensive, but I use 1. The second reason I do that is also because I know where it's come from. I know what's in it. So that's really important to me. But also, the other thing that I do is I bulk meals out with clever protein. So things like lentils and chickpeas and beans are really high in protein. My last tip is batch cooking. Now, batch cooking serves 2 purposes, a little bit like I was talking about making your shopping list. It reduces your food waste. Your batch cooking can kind of sit in with that as well, because it's going to reduce your energy costs. If you're making 2, 3, 4 of something, if you're filling your oven and making 3 lasagnas, because that's the most you can get in your oven, then you're only having your oven on once, aren't you? When you reheat it, you can put it in the microwave. It doesn't take long to warm up. Whereas cooking, you're having to make the sauce, you're having to make the bolognese. So, you've got all those different heat sources on. Make it once. Batch cook it. It saves you time, saves you fuel, and also you can cook up. So if you've got leftover, you might be able to get a deal. So if you've got a deal at your butcher's and he's got a deal on mincemeat, then why not cook up all of the mincemeat with a load of onion? And it's the base for so many different dishes, isn't it? Lasagna, moussaka, moussaka meant to be lamb, but lasagna, bolognese, chili, hot pot. It's a basis for all of those meals. So you could just cook up a load of mince, cook a load of onion in one pan. Probably takes about the same amount of time. Separate out into different dishes, pop it in the fridge or the freezer, and you've got the base then done. That you're just adding, different tomato, spices, herbs, whatever it might be that you're going to add to it to ring up those changes, and add those lentils when you're cooking that mince up. That is it from me for this week. Thank you so much for listening. I'm going to be back next week with an interview with the lovely Camille Martin. I love talking to Camille. She's one of those people that she's got a lovely voice and a lovely mannerism, and you feel it immediately. And I felt really calm when I spoke to her, and just really warm. She's a really, really warm person. So yeah, great interview next week. That is it from me. Take care. See you next week. Thank you for watching this excerpt of this week's Are You Really Going to Eat That podcast? If you'd like to listen to the full episode, then the link is in the notes below.